I want to highlight that we want to stay aware of science as it's evolving, but we don't want to grab onto these studies as if they are, lifestyle patterns. That we have to take the studies and then we have to apply it to our more comprehensive, holistic life habit patterns, okay?
Hi, welcome to the Judy Terrell Show, where I explore topics intended to optimize everybody 50, 60, 70, and above.
As somebody who has been following science and teaching and programming people for fitness and nutrition, weight management, and now longevity for 45 years, and somebody who has followed the science and tries to role model the right way from a lifestyle perspective to have optimal health, optimal weight management, and now longevity, I want to address in this video science. Okay? Science is having a moment right now. If you go on social media, you're going to find a plethora of influencers who are quoting science studies. There are leading researchers now writing books, and they are quoting research and randomized clinical studies, and then they're giving us information. All right? Now, science is not fixed. It's fluid. Science evolves, and the things that are being recommended by the studies will change as we are continuing to study and get more data and then diversify it into different ethnicities and different sexes and different locations geographically. So let's talk about some science that's within our lifetimes that has given us direction that we as a culture jumped on and then led us down a path that didn't lead to longevity and has been changed. Okay, I have 3 examples of what I'm going to use. All right, the first one is fat makes you fat. 1970s, early 1980s, science showed that fat, in our food was contributing to fat on our bodies, high adipose tissue, or so the science was saying. And we were then led to believe that if we cut back on dietary fat, that we are then going to be thinner as a culture, as a nation, as a globe. And we did. Food manufacturers changed their makeup of what they were doing with their food to create it, and they lowered the fat content, and in so doing, they raised other things like sugars and flavor enhancers, but they did successfully lower the fat. And as, per the science, we as a culture, I'm going to use America as an example because that's where I live, we went to lower fat. We reduced the fat in our diet. And then what happened, if you look at epidemiological studies and charts, is that as we reduced fat, diabetes and obesity escalated unbelievably. All right. Then fast forward to now the science clearly shows that if you reduce fat too low in your dietary intake, then that is going to negatively affect brain health, immunity, and longevity. All right. So that's an example of where, in the 1970s, the science was showing that dietary fat was out to be outlawed. It was clearly shown in the research labs that fat was bad for you. And now fast forward, 40 years? The science is completely shifted. 180-degree turn. All right, that's example number 1. Example number 2 from our lifetime. Stay in the fat burning zone when you do cardio. All right. So scientists went into the research labs and they gathered data pools of participants, and they did studies, and they found that when you are at the higher outputs of cardio, zone 4, zone 5, that your substrate that you're using for fueling that activity in the moment switched from mostly fat into mostly carbohydrate. Okay? And what they concluded from that very specific and reductionistic view, because science takes the lens and it really hones it in on very specific components. And then it controls for all the other things that might be interfacing with that so they can draw conclusions. All right. So in this, battery, this conglomeration of studies, it showed that when you went to higher intensities in cardio, you burned less fat as a substrate in the moment you're doing it and more carb. And then the conclusion was drawn that throw away that high-end stuff. If you're trying to control your weight and lose body fat, you want to stay in the fat-burning zones, which are zones 1, 2, and the very beginning of zone 3. All right? Fast forward to now, that has been 180-degree turned. All the influencers that are now telling you what kind of cardio to do, especially if you're over 50, they are saying do this sprint interval training or HIIT, high intensity interval training, and that is like burning uber amounts of carb, but that's being correlated with, better markers for longevity. Okay? And so now the recommendation from the science is throw away your cardio. You don't have to do zone 2, waste of your time. Just do these 2 15-minute sit training interval workouts a week and you're going to live forever. Okay?
When you have tried all the programs and done all the right things, and yet you still can't lose the weight that you're trying to lose, and you're a male or female over 50, now is the time for you to look into my program, Your Second 50.life. It includes online video support. You can download video and PDFs for an eating plan and exercise plan appropriate for over 50. It includes group support on a monthly basis, and perhaps even more importantly, it includes weekly individualized coaching specific to you. Having the generalized plan is a good thing. I have helped literally thousands of people to lose weight over the 43 years I've been in practice, and I'd like to help you too.
Now, that may be true for longevity, but when you're putting it back into context, when I'm putting it into context for clients, when I'm designing their workouts, I've got clients that are not getting enough steps in their day, and they're throwing their cardio out. They're working on muscle, and they're only doing these 2 cardio 15-minute high-intensity intervals, and now they're gaining body fat. Because that is true in the moment when you're researching the specificity of the mechanisms and the chemical processes that are going on in the body during this high interval training, but what we are not getting when it's now applied back to our lives is that most of us are trying to manage body fat, and we might want to live longer, but we don't want to live longer at 200 pounds overweight, right? And so it's fluid. The science is shifted. And it needs to then also be applied back to our everyday lives where it's not controlled variables. A lot of other variables are coming into play as well. All right. So that's 2 examples of how the science has, flipped on itself in our lifetime. And the 3rd example is this. Hormone replacement therapy for postmenopausal females. All right. 3 years ago, not even that long ago, hormone replacement therapy, estrogen, was black label box. Okay, it was the skull and crossbones. It was going to cause blood clotting. It was going to cause dementia. It was going to cause heart disease and all sorts of negatives because science and very, very large studies were saying that was the case. Now, right now, 3 years later, they just removed the black box label warning, and now hormone replacement therapy for postmenopause is being claimed to, heal everything that ails you if you're a woman postmenopause. All right? 3rd example of the science and how it is literally flipped on itself. Okay? So there is my evidence that, science is... We want to follow science, okay? But what my message is in this video, as a programmer of lifestyle medicine to a successful programmer, by the way, men and women both who are over 50, and I program all people, but I've specialized in over 50, and I want to highlight that we want to stay aware of science as it's evolving, but we don't want to grab onto these studies as if they are lifestyle patterns. That we have to take the studies and then we have to apply it to our more comprehensive, holistic life habit patterns, okay? How's our sleep? What are we doing with our eating? What are we doing with our movement and exercise? How do we interpret the world around us in our own minds? What are the things we say to ourselves? And what kind of stress or anti-stress is that causing within our bodies? How socially connected are we? Are we isolated and alone? Are we, in communication with people, but it's through social media and not direct human contact? And how is that affecting us? Because the science, not only is it fluid and changing and evolving as it should be, like anything that is alive and like on like a process, it should be morphing as we get more information. And we learn and we grow through feedback loops of what we learned, and maybe how we, we're generalizing to a large population, but the information that we studied was done on a specific population. For instance, most of the research that was done up until, the last 10 or 15 years was done on males that are in the age of 18 to 22, because they were in universities where these studies were done, right? Now we're finding that doesn't apply to the females. It doesn't apply to 50 plus bodies. The information was correct, but only for this subpopulation. So the science can get very, very muddy when you are trying to apply it to you as a holistic and, multifaceted person with a life, right? And so that's where as a programmer, I follow the science, but my specialty as a lifestyle, as medicine programmer, because I am not somebody who's going to go with, what's the latest supplement that's out, the peptides, the hormone replacement, what is the specific, throw away this type of exercise and just do this type of exercise, when we know that each type of exercise, cardio, strength training, mobility, and flexibility, and balance, all serve different purposes, right? And we need all of them. So then the art becomes, how can I help to program somebody so that A, it's the right information for them, and B, it's going to fit in their life, and C, it's in alignment with their life habit patterns, right? Sometimes we have to really shift some life habit patterns because they really are leading to, ill health. For instance, smoking, right? But not everybody who smokes gets cancer, right? So there's other factors that go into just that one variable, is my point with that illustration. I'm not an advocate for smoking, but I am an advocate for taking a holistic view of your own life and your life habits and your health history and your genetics and your predispositions about what you like and what you don't like. I can make a recommendation for somebody to have okra, for instance, because it's full of polyphenols and really great for you. But if somebody doesn't like it, they're not going to eat it. And nor should they, because you shouldn't eat something, I don't care how healthy it is, if psychologically it causes discomfort for you. That's not a holistic approach, right? So as a 63-year-old female who walks the walk of lifestyle since I've been 16, I've been teaching and programming people since I'm 18 years old, and I walk the walk. I am a living example. I got through menopause without, glitch. I didn't get the meno belly. I don't have that body fat. And I do cardio for hours every day because I'm still an Ironman triathlete at 63. And I plan to be for as long as I'm on the planet and can do it. So the science is showing right now that if I'm doing cardio in zone 2 or 3 for any extended period of time, I should have cortisol spilling all over the place, and I should have a meno belly that's hanging down to my feet, and I clearly do not. All right. So again, individualized application, because I would argue back that although that is what the science is showing for that level of cardio, for me, the mental health benefits of being able to kind of unplug from the rest of my life, which is uber busy and in demand, because I have a very, very, very successful lifestyle as medicine practice, that allows me to sculpt out some time so I can unplug from that. And that alone is balancing out any cortisol that might be spilling from doing that zone 2 cardio or zone 3. All right. So again, application, I'm using myself as an example, but this is what I do when I'm working with a client. And this is what I advocate that you find help with, is don't just follow the science as if it's God's rule. You have to get someone to help you to then take a holistic approach and apply it back to you so you get the right recommendations for what you should be doing on a day-to-day, week-by-week lifestyle as medicine approach to weight management, health, chronic health issues, and longevity. And just quality of life and feeling good as we wake up and go through every day, right? So if you are somebody who is going to take this, who wants to take this broader view, who knows lifestyle and consistency, I'm a walking example of it myself, is the way to go. And that science is a part of that, but it should not trump everything else or should not trump common sense and application for you as an individual, because science is fluid, evolves and changes, and it's usually reductionistic and then not necessarily applied back to a holistic, realm, which is what we're trying to do when we're applying it within our lives. Okay, everybody, see you soon on my next video. And if you are taking that broader, more holistic view, then follow me. And if you'd like to have access to some of my additional resources, I can be found at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on my website, www.judyterrell.com.